The city of Lagos never truly slept. By midnight, the hum of traffic along Allen Avenue blended with the laughter spilling out of bars, the rumble of Danfo buses still hustling late-night passengers, and the occasional siren that cut through the noise like a blade. Neon lights flickered across the street corners where women in short dresses leaned casually against parked cars, waiting, negotiating, surviving. Elaine was among them. At 35, she was still strikingly beautiful, a beauty that had endured despite the scars of time and choices. Her skin glowed under the harsh street lights, her long braids fell neatly across her shoulders, and her eyes, though rimmed with kohl, carried a weariness that no makeup could conceal. When men slowed their cars and rolled down tinted windows, they whistled, called, and sometimes begged. Elaine would smile, a smile perfected over years of practice, charming yet detached, then lean into the window, her voice low and husky as she quoted her price. Tonight was no different. A silver SUV stopped, the man inside giving her a long stare. He looked wealthy, rings glinting on his fingers, his cologne filling the air as she leaned in. He asked her the usual, how much for the night? No name, no real conversation, just a transaction. She gave her rate. He frowned, tried to bargain. She laughed lightly but firmly, walking away when he pushed too far. It wasn't the rejection that hurt. She had grown immune to those. It was the realization that after all these years, nothing had changed. She was still Elaine the night woman. To them, she wasn't someone's daughter. Not someone's sister. Definitely not someone's future wife. She was a service. As the SUV drove away, Elaine adjusted her dress and let out a sigh. When did life become this? She wondered. When did I accept that this is all I deserve? Elaine hadn't always been on the streets. She was once a bright-eyed young girl from Ejigunle, the eldest of 4 children. Her father had been a truck driver, rough but loving, while her mother sold a karo by the roadside. They weren't rich, but they managed until tragedy struck. One rainy evening, her father never returned home. His truck had skidded off the highway near Ibadan. He died instantly. Elaine was only 17. Overnight, her world collapsed. Her mother struggled to feed them, and the pressure soon pushed Elaine to drop out of school to help. She worked in shops, carried loads in the market, even scrubbed floors in richer people's houses. But Lagos was unforgiving, and survival was expensive. The turning point came when she was 21. A friend from her neighborhood introduced her to a madam who promised her easy money and a better life. At first, Elaine resisted, but hunger is a teacher that wears down pride. That first night, standing in a hotel lobby dressed in clothes that didn't feel like hers, Elaine swallowed her shame and stepped into a man's room. It was supposed to be temporary, just until she saved enough to start a small business. But weeks became months, months became years. Soon, the streets knew her. She became one of the big girls in Surulere and Allen, riding taxis in the daytime and walking the neon-lit corners at night. Now in her mid-30s, Elaine felt the weight of wasted years pressing down on her like chains. Younger girls were replacing her on the streets. She still had loyal clients, especially men who trusted her discretion, but the competition was fierce, and her body didn't bounce back from sleepless nights the way it once did. Sometimes, in the early hours of morning, she would return to her small apartment in Ikeja, throw off her heels, and collapse on the bed. Alone. Always alone. She would stare at the ceiling fan spinning slowly above her and whisper to herself, God, is this my portion? Is this the end of my story? Her deepest desire wasn't money anymore. She had seen money come and go. It was love, marriage, a home, children who would call her mama without shame. But every time a man approached her, it was the same. How much? Never will you have dinner with me. Never can I meet your family. One afternoon, as she walked back from buying food at the booker near her apartment, she saw her neighbor in a white gown, surrounded by bridesmaids. Music filled the air as cars decorated with ribbons lined the street. It was a wedding. Elaine froze, her takeaway nylon dangling loosely from her hand. The bride laughed joyfully, her husband-to-be holding her hand as friends and family cheered. Elaine smiled faintly but turned away quickly, tears threatening to fall. Back in her room, she placed the untouched food on the table and cried into her hands. That night, she prayed a prayer she hadn't prayed in years. Lord, give me a man. Not a client. A man who will love me. Please. It was on one of those nights, after hours of rejection and weariness, that Elaine decided to leave early. She walked past the usual corner, heels clacking against the pavement, when she noticed a man standing by a roadside vendor. He wasn't looking at her like the others did. He was buying roasted corn, laughing lightly with the seller. As she passed, their eyes met. For a moment, she felt exposed, as if he could see through the mask she wore for the world. He didn't whistle or call her. Instead, he said softly, "You don't belong here." Elaine stopped, surprised. "Excuse me." The man gave a gentle smile. "I don't know you, but I can see it. You're not like the rest. One day, someone will see the real you. Don't give up." He handed the seller some cash, picked his corn, and walked away before Elaine could even ask his name. She stood rooted on the spot, her heart pounding. For the first time in years, a man had spoken to her without lust in his eyes, without a price in his tone. Just respect. That night, as she sat in front of her small mirror, wiping off her makeup, she stared into her own reflection. "Will that day ever come?" she whispered, her voice trembling between doubt and longing, and for the first time in years, Elaine went to bed with a tiny flicker of hope. The following morning, Lagos awakened in its usual chaos. The honking of impatient drivers, the cries of roadside hawkers balancing trays of gala and lacasera on their heads, and the chanting of bus conductors calling out routes from Oberlin to Oshodi created a symphony of survival. Elaine sat by the window of her small one-room apartment, sipping lukewarm tea. She looked out at the bustle of the street below and wondered what her life might have been had she made different choices. Her apartment was modest, a bed, a worn-out wardrobe, and a small television that only worked when Nipa decided to show mercy. On the wall hung a framed picture of her younger self, taken at her secondary school graduation. In it, she was fresh-faced, smiling widely, full of hope. Every time she looked at it, she felt a pang of regret. That morning, as she prepared to step out, her phone buzzed. It was Sandra, one of her closest friends on the streets. Sandra was in her early 30s too, with a sharp tongue and an unshakable belief that survival mattered more than dignity. "Illa baby." Sandra's voice chirped over the phone. "Where you day?" "We day gather for one client hotel for 6. This one go pay well. No dull yourself." Elaine sighed. "Sandra, I'm tired. Last night drained me." Sandra chuckled. "You go tire soti money no day again. Abeg, dress up come. These men get dollars." After ending the call, Elaine sat on the edge of her bed. The money was tempting, it always was. But her heart wasn't in it anymore. Still, bills had to be paid. And so, with practiced hands, she applied makeup, put on her heels, and prepared to meet Sandra. Later that day, inside the hotel suite in Victoria Island, the women lounged around waiting for the clients to arrive. Sandra stretched on the bed, her laugh loud and carefree. 2 younger girls scrolled through their phones, gossiping about a celebrity scandal. Elaine, however, sat quietly by the corner, lost in thought. Sandra noticed and nudged her. "Babe, why you day always do like say na pasta you wan marry?" Sandra teased, lighting a cigarette. "We day here to enjoy, chop their money. Marriage no fit put food for table." Elaine smiled faintly. "Sandra, don't you ever think about it? Settling down, having children. A man that calls you his wife, not his girl for the night." Sandra blew smoke into the air, laughing. "Abeg, men no fit change. Today them go call you wife, tomorrow them day chase small girls. If you day wait for husband, you fit wait till heaven call you." Elaine's eyes darkened. "I don't want to wait till heaven calls me. I'm tired, Sandra. Tired of this life. I want something different. I want love." The room went quiet for a moment. Even the younger girls glanced at her. One of them, barely 20, asked softly, "Auntie Elaine, you think we fit ever find real love?" Elaine looked at her and, for the first time, didn't have an answer. That night, Elaine couldn't sleep. She tossed on her bed, Sandra's laughter still echoing in her head. She thought about her mother. It had been years since they last spoke. Her mother had begged her to leave the streets, but Elaine had been too ashamed to face her after countless broken promises to change. She remembered her mother's words. "Elaine, a woman's pride is not in her beauty but in the home she builds. Don't waste yourself." The memory brought tears to her eyes. She wondered if her mother would ever forgive her, if she would ever have the courage to show up at her family's doorstep again. A few days later, Elaine found herself back on Allen Avenue. Cars slowed, music thumped from clubs, and the air was thick with perfume and sweat. A group of young men leaned against a car, eyeing her with mocking smiles. One of them called out, "Auntie Elaine, you still day here? Na your pecan go soon join you for street." Their laughter was cruel, cutting into her like a knife. Elaine's chest tightened as she turned away quickly, pretending not to hear. The sting of their words followed her down the road. Is this all I'll ever be remembered for? That night, as she removed her makeup, she stared into her mirror again. Her reflection looked back at her with tired eyes, but also with a whisper of possibility. She touched her face, remembering the words of the man she met by the corn cellar. One day, someone will see the real you. She didn't even know his name, but his voice replayed in her head like a song. For the first time in years, she dared to imagine a future that didn't involve neon lights and hotel rooms. God, she whispered, please, if you can hear me, don't let me die like this. The room was silent, except for the creak of the fan above her head. But within her, a seed of hope had been planted.